Hello, I'm Lillian, just Lillian. I'm not a psychologist or a theologian. I haven't been to Bible college or any place that might give me some kind of credentials that separate me out as especially holy in knowledge. Who I am is a survivor. I'm a sister in Christ who believed all the Christian teachings on marriage and lived them out. I ended up trapped in an abusive marriage for almost 34 years, not even realizing it was abuse. That last phrase, not even realizing it was abuse, could be the key to understanding your own situation if your marriage has lots of conflict. Through that journey, I've accumulated some interesting and some disturbing knowledge about how wolves in sheep's clothing can stay hidden in marriage and even thrive within the Christian community and churches. This clip is taken from my main video titled, What Every Wife Needs to Know About Reversed Polarity in Marriage. You can find the link for that in the description box and at the end of the video. If your husband has stopped pursuing you, it could be a sign that the natural polarity between his masculine initiation and your feminine response has been reversed. But discovering this is just the beginning, so it's not a guarantee of happily ever after, and it's not a formula to change a wolf into a sheep. I'm sorry to say, but I can unequivocally confirm if you've married a wolf in sheep's clothing, that's who he is. He's not a good guy who's dysfunctional and occasionally messes up. He's an evil guy who occasionally does good things for you as part of his cover. On the other hand, if your husband is unhealed and your marriage is dysfunctional with lots of conflict, when you begin to embody your natural femininity, things are going to shift from attention back to attraction. The healing work does begin with you, but it doesn't end there. It'll reverse the polarity dynamic that's creating most of the problems in the marriage if it's a reverse polarity that you're experiencing. Your healing causes your husband to heal. This is what it truly means to be a helper to your husband. When you've been using your testosterone wrong, did you know that you could use your testosterone wrong? You can. I'll get to that later in the video. When you've been using it wrong, it means the dynamic that you're creating in your marriage is masculine chasing masculine, and that's the significant source of where the conflict comes from in your marriage. If you've been chasing your husband to try and get back to the connection that you used to feel with him, if you're trying to get the affection and love from him, trying to get him to chase you again, that's the main sign that there's something deeper going on with you. It's a sign of an unhealed wound or perhaps many wounds in your feminine heart. Sometimes it's because you've inadvertently, through no fault of your own, but you've made a mistake and stepped into a polarity that God never designed for you. When a wife's been chasing her husband, what that looks like is that she's the one strategizing their life, fixing their problems, and she's the one who's leading because she's the one who's looking for all the solutions. It's her who's shifting the dynamic. Healthy masculinity naturally leans back when he's met with masculine energy from his wife. Even when a man is wounded and dysfunctional, he'll still lean away from masculine energy in a female. He might not understand your femininity, but he knows that the power in his masculinity is no match for yours, and he doesn't want to hurt you. He's not rejecting you. I know it feels like he is, but he's trying to protect you because that's how God designed healthy masculinity to function towards femininity. He designed it to want to protect it. I want to say right off the hop, this isn't about shame. We all have a sanctification journey to take with God, and stepping out in faith is part of that journey. We can't be afraid to make mistakes. They're part of the process of how we learn to trust God's provision and direction. Ecclesiastes 11, verse 6 says that trying to avoid risks because of fear of mistakes could mean that we're missing out on valuable opportunities for learning and growth. Dan Coe has a great way of framing this concept. The greatest mistake is not making mistakes. He says that mistakes don't start out as mistakes, they start out as risks. I want to tell you, sister, that you have risked. Every time you tried to make your marriage better, you risked money, time, effort. You risked yourself being open and vulnerable. You might have failed because your marriage didn't get better, but that doesn't mean you didn't learn something and grow closer to God in the process. We've got broken parts. Some of us have got severely maimed and damaged parts in our souls. And that means sometimes we're going to think things are right when they're wrong. Proverbs 14, verse 12. So the only way to reverse those polarities back to God's dynamic is to understand something called the pursuit paradox. A paradox is a statement, a situation, or concept that seems contradictory. Most paradoxes are going to challenge any kind of conventional thinking. And in context of relationship, the pursuit paradox is a concept that means the more you chase your husband, the more he's going to pull away. It's not because he doesn't care, but because something to him feels off. Healthy men are naturally drawn to feminine energy, but when a wife operates in her masculine energy, she creates a repelling effect. That's the dynamic that God's bringing to our attention in Proverbs. He's referring to it as the contentious wife. We'll get to that in a little bit. But if you're married to a wolf, a toxic man, his success depends on this polarity reversal. Toxic men are able to take advantage of the imbalance so that you stay in a state of striving in your masculine energy. That way, you'll deplete yourself. When a woman is tired and run down, remember, she's only got 10% of that driving force that he has. It's why she's called the weaker vessel. So the sooner he can get her to burn through that 10%, she becomes easier to control and manipulate. I bet at about this point in the video, you are probably thinking exactly what I used to think, but I'm just trying to fix our marriage. Someone's got to do it. I get it. I've been there. I had the same mindset. But the more you lean into fixing and strategizing and chasing him, the worse things are going to get. I promise you. Chasing a dream or going after a goal is true in most aspects of life in general. If you want to accomplish something meaningful, you've got to do the work. But when it comes to masculinity and femininity in a one-flesh relationship, it's a paradox. Just for femininity, not for masculinity. The roles in marriage are not paradoxical. They're structured. It's only estrogen that lives in the paradox of a one-flesh relationship. This paradox means that the more a woman tries to do femininity, the more elusive it's going to become. Femininity isn't something you chase after like an accomplishment. It's something you become by letting go, leaning back, and receiving. Masculinity is achieved in the opposite way. It's earned through striving. But in the context of relationship, the striving isn't about goals or competition. It's directed towards femininity. A man steps into his masculinity not by competing with femininity, but by pursuing her, by cleaving to her, by providing and protecting. God created femininity to contrast masculinity. not strive to be like it or compete with it. Femininity becomes more feminine by doing less to receive more. As far as a one flesh relationship is concerned, femininity expands and flourishes through the act of responding, and masculinity gets better and bigger and faster and stronger when he intentionally pursues femininity.